Bitcoin reminds me of what Oscar Wilde said about fox hunting.
Cyril Tibbeville, he asked, do you think value investing is still relevant in a GDP decreasing world? And what about passive investing?
Well, that is easy. Value investing, the way I regard it, will never go out of style, because value investing, the way I conceive it, is always wanting to get more value than you pay for when you buy a stock. And that approach will never go out of style. Some people think that value investing is you chase companies which have a lot of cash and are a lousy business or something, but I don't define that as value investing. I think all good investing is value investing. It's just that some people look for values in strong companies and some look for values in weak companies. But every value investor tries to get more value than he pays for. What is interesting is that in wealth management, a lot of people think that if they have 100 stocks, they're investing more professionally than they are if they have 4 or 5. I regard this as insanity, absolute insanity. I find it much easier to find 4 or 5 investments where I have a pretty reasonable chance of being right that they're way above average. I think it's much easier to find 5 than it is to find 100. I think the people who argue for all this diversification, by the way, I call it diversification, and which I copied from somebody, and I'm way more comfortable owning 2 or 3 stocks which I think I know something about and where I think I have an advantage.
Jeffrey Malloy asks, what is the biggest competitive threat to U.S. banks like Bank of America and U.S. Bank, both equity holdings of the Daily Journal Corporation, over the long term? He asks, is it digital wallets like PayPal, Square, or Apple Pay? Is it Bitcoin, decentralized finance, or something else?
Well, I don't think I know exactly what the future of banking is, and I don't think I know how the payment system will evolve. I do think that a properly run bank is a great contributor to civilization, and that the central banks of the world like controlling their own banking system and their own money supplies. So I don't think Bitcoin is going to end up the medium of exchange for the world. It's too volatile to serve well as a medium of exchange. And it's really kind of an artificial substitute for gold. And since I never buy any gold, I never buy any Bitcoin. And I recommend that other people follow my practice. Bitcoin reminds me of what Oscar Wilde said about fox hunting. He said it was the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable.
Charlie, you actually got a couple of questions from shareholders about Bitcoin, and one follow-up here. Mark Blakely from Tulsa, Oklahoma, he asked if your opinion on cryptocurrencies has remained the same, and would the Daily Journal consider Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency as an asset on the balance sheet, similar to what Tesla recently did?
No, we will not be following Tesla and the Bitcoin.
Charlie, Caroline Smolinski would like to know, which do you think is crazier? Bitcoin at 50,000 or Tesla's fully diluted enterprise value of 1 trillion? What do you make of these two pricings?
Well, I have the same difficulty that Samuel Johnson once had when he got a similar question. And he said, I can't decide the order of precedency between a flea and a louse. And I feel the same way about those choices. I don't know which is worse.
We have a question from Simon Jacobs. He writes, Many believe that inequality accelerated by this pandemic has reached alarming levels that demands drastic solutions, such as a wealth tax. Do you agree with the premise? And if so, how would you address inequality?
Well, I think any rich nation ought to have a social safety net that expands a little with its wealth. And that's what we've been doing through my whole lifetime, and I applaud the result. And I think the result would have been worse if either party had been in control all by itself for the whole period. In other words, I think the system of checks and balances and elections that our founders gave us actually gave us pretty much the right policies during my lifetime. And I hope that that will continue in the future. But I do think politics is getting more full of hatred and irrationality than it used to be in America, and I don't think that's good.
Alan Smolinski asks, Charlie, many major businesses and high net worth individuals have been leaving California. Can you speak to the causes, the trend, and make some predictions?
Yes, I think that is rising as we sit here. I just see more and more of the rich people leaving. And of course, I think it's vastly stupid for any state to be user-friendly to the rich people. They do way more good than harm. And they lose their money fast enough. You don't need to worry about it. And so I think the policy, Washington State is actually considering a wealth tax at the state level. I think that would be insanity. I predict that if they do that, a lot of people will leave Washington.